What's up guys, my name's Brandon and welcome back to Apple Weekly. In this episode, we're going to discuss even more new changes in iOS 17.4. We're going to talk Apple's insanely viral week, along with their privacy mistake, iPhone 16 Pro Max, and iOS 18 rumors, a crazy AirTag story, and more. And of course, if you want to stay updated with everything going on in the world of Apple, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and also check out the Apple Den newsletter. Yesterday's issue was a banger. Okay, so let's start with iOS 17.4. So we are currently on beta 2. We should be seeing beta 3 next week. Now, one thing I want to point out with 17.4 is that we finally have a fix for the notification center bug. This is a bug I've been talking about since iOS 17.0 when it was still in the beta stages last June. So we've been talking about this bug for a long time here on the channel, and I actually stopped covering it because it was getting repetitive because I said it in every single video, but thankfully Apple has fixed it. So now if you go to the lock screen and try to pull up the notification center, you'll notice that we no longer have that really ugly judder and these notifications just jumping on top of each other. If you look at my 17.3.1 video yesterday, or just from a couple of days ago, I did show that bug was not fixed in 17.3.1, but it has been fixed here in 17.4. Thank goodness, it's about time. Now let's go back to the lock screen because there's another change in 17.4 here as well, which is very subtle and you're gonna have to look really close for this one, but there's a slight change in the animation of the song title on the lock screen when you have the album artwork in full screen mode like this. So if we go to the next song or the previous song, you can see the animation there. It kind of slides in from one side, whereas before it did not have that sliding animation. So that is also new with 17.4. Now in iOS 17.4 beta 2, there was a new splash screen for the App Store. And I showed this in my What's New video, but there's a little bit more to the story here. And it's really ironic because if you read the first sentence, it says a safe and trusted place to discover amazing apps and so on. Now, obviously Apple is kind of throwing shade at the EU here for the whole side loading and third-party app store. So they're making sure to let everybody know that the App Store is the safe and trusted place. However, the irony comes from something that happened earlier this week because a fake LastPass, which is a password manager application, made its way into the App Store, and it took Apple hours before taking it down. Now, I understand that this is going to happen no matter what. There's always going to be applications that slip through, but this one stayed live for quite a while, and multiple publications reported on it, and I just found it very interesting because it was a very critical application as well. Like if somebody put their passwords into that fake LastPass application, there's a strong likelihood that their accounts are going to be compromised because obviously that text is probably just going to go back as, regular characters, and regular text is not going to be encrypted to the person who developed that fake application. So that's worrisome, and I just find it ironic that Apple just literally in their last beta put a safe and trusted place, but yet something like this happens just days later. So the reason I bring this up is to just say, even though you're in the App Store, do not just take everything at face value. Do your research, especially if you see applications on like Facebook ads or something like that. Just do your research and make sure it's a legitimate application. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've been having a lot of issues with my pictures that I crop not actually cropping. So like if I go into this screenshot here and tap on edit and I go to crop and I crop this and hit done, if I were to, send this cropped image right here as a text message, which is what I normally do, a lot of times on 17.3 and 17.3.1, I tested this, it will not send the cropped version. It will only send the full-sized version. However, I tested that with 17.4 beta 2 on my main device, and that appears to be fixed as well. So if you had any issues with cropping images and them showing up as the full size and not what you cropped it as, that could be fixed with 17.4. And there's also been a fix to the Discord application as well. For some reason, my nav bar was completely cut off on 17.4 beta 1, but that was fixed with beta 2, and it was not an application issue because I had my app fully updated. And speaking of Discord, the Apple Den, which is my Discord server, is going to have a contest going on from February 10th through February 25th, and there's going to be $175 in prizes. You can see first place there gets a $100 Apple gift card and a secret prize. So if you want to learn more about this, I will leave a link down in the description below to join the Apple Den. It's fun, even aside aside from the giveaways here. It's just fun to chat and talk about betas and wallpapers and tech and all that. So if you have not joined already, please do so by clicking the link down in the description below. Anyways, as far as the performance and the battery life goes on 17.4, I actually had my first random respring on 17.4 yesterday on my main device, which is running the public beta. And that's the first like random respring I've had in a long time. I believe since iOS 17.2, maybe even 17.1. So for some reason in beta 2, I had a random respring when I did not have that before, especially not on beta 1, which is really solid. So I don't know, performance is still good for me. I really have had no hiccups or no issues aside from that one random time, but I did just want to point it out in case you guys are having that as well. But you can see the Geekbench scores here are solid. I mean, a 2949 and a 7293, those are solid scores for a beta in general. So as far as the battery life goes, you can see battery life here on this device is not really going to tell you a full story. You can see what I started the video at, but let's go ahead and check out my main device for how, a practical day or week of usage on the beta looks like. So if we go to the battery here, you can see I'm actually getting solid battery life. And I mentioned this in last week's Apple Weekly episode, but battery life on 17.4, the betas, has been better than 17.3 and 17.3.1, which is pretty wild to see. And lately I have been using my Apple Vision Pro more, so I've been using my iPhone less, but this, this kind of trend started before the Apple Vision Pro was even released. So battery life to me on 17.4 is better than it was on 17.3, at least so far. Now, I did also want to talk about iOS 17.3.1 as well, because that was just released on Thursday. So typically for a public release, we get those on Monday, but sometimes for a double point update, like a 0.3, 0.1, we do get those later in the week. So it wasn't all too surprising that we got that on Thursday. However, what was surprising is that it only had one bug fix in the release notes and one fix only. There were no security patches, no CVEs, nothing. There was just one bug fix. Now, granted, that bug that it fixed was extremely annoying, and this fix was long overdue because people have been having that bug, myself included, for many months now. And you can see it was text may unexpectedly duplicate or overlap while typing. And I showed a lot of examples of this actually happening in my iOS 17.3.1 What's New video. So if you did not watch that yet, that will be linked down in the description below and also up in the cards in the top right. And ever since that video came out, I've had a few people ask me if the battery life or the performance are any better. And basically what I said in that video still holds true. I mean, I'm not using it on my main device, of course, but I am testing it on my secondary device, which does have a SIM card in it. And the performance and battery life feels exactly the same as 17.3. And I'll still say it, that 17.4 has better battery life and performance than both of those versions, which is crazy. Anyways, let's move on to what to expect next from Apple. So next up is going to be iOS 17.4 Beta 3. And I would expect to see that next week on the week of February 12th. And Apple should stick to their regular schedule, which means a beta on a Tuesday. And we are on a weekly release schedule now. So I would expect to see 17.4 Beta 3 on Tuesday the 13th. And then after that, we should get probably another beta. So we'll probably have a fourth beta on the 20th and then an RC on the 27th. And that means that we should have a full release, a final release of 17.4 on the week of March 4th, most likely right there on March 4th, which is the first Monday of March. And this 17.4 update, it might seem small, but it's a massive update for Apple. I mean, the whole side loading in the EU thing is like a major deal. That is a major change for Apple, fundamentally for them as a company. So that's going to be, very interesting to see how that rolls out and how that kind of plays out in the EU. Anyways, let's move on to the latest Apple news. And let's start with Apple's insanely viral week. I don't think I've ever seen a more viral week for Apple than what we witnessed this week with the Apple Vision Pro. I mean, you could not escape these Apple Vision Pro videos this week. I mean, they were on influencers' feeds, celebrities were posting about it. This video got 86 million views. It probably has a lot more now, well over 100 million at this point. And, people were driving in a Cybertruck with it. I mean, there was just so much going on with the Apple Vision Pro this week that's like, that's just free marketing for Apple. And this is the new, I see the Apple Vision Pro as like the new AirPods Max in terms of like a statement piece, a flex, if you will, with all these celebrities wearing it and everything like that. And I just think that the sales for the Apple Vision Pro are going to be much higher than any analyst predicted. And I said that back in June. I mean, this is not a new statement for me. I said back in June that this thing is going to sell better than most people think. And the guidance has already been raised like 3 times since then. And the craziest thing about the Apple Vision Pro, which by the way, if you did not see my video already on the Apple Vision Pro while working, so I did a full like day in the life while working video with the Apple Vision Pro that kind of gave you an insight as to how I work on a daily basis with that big headset strapped to my face. So if you have not seen that, that's up in the cards right now and down in the description below. Even if you don't plan on using it for that, I think it's an interesting watch because you will probably learn something from it and kind of understand how it's much different than the Meta Quest 3, for example. Anyways, the craziest part about the Apple Vision Pro is how much it has divided Apple fanboys. Like Apple diehard fans are completely divided on the Apple Vision Pro in terms of they either hate it or they love it. Usually it's like somewhere right in the middle. Most people love it and a few people hate it. But right now it's like a full 50-50 of people that love it and people that hate it, which is very, very rare for Apple. Really the only other times I've seen that happen were with the iPhone 10 and the original AirPods. Both times those released. Because if you remember, both of those times people said, number one, they don't look good. The AirPods, people kept saying the AirPods don't look good. And also, who's going to spend $160 on headphones? Like, that's what everybody was saying back then, even Apple fans. And then when the iPhone 10 came out, it was like $1,000 for an iPhone. That's ridiculous. I'll never pay that. And also, like, oh, you're getting rid of the headphone jack? Why? Like, everybody loves the headphone jack. I'll never buy it for that reason. Or it was like, I need my home button. I cannot buy a phone without a home button. That was the sentiment back when the iPhone 10 came out. And there was just a lot of negativity around it. And I see the Apple Vision Pro as following a very similar path. Now, granted, it's a completely different device. I understand that it's way more expensive than those, and it's also way more niche of a product. But still, the point still stands how this is not something new for Apple where everybody hates it, everybody says bad things about it at first, and then over time, it gets gradually more popular and, accepted in society. And I share more about the psychology of the Apple Vision Pro in the Apple Den newsletter. So if you want to read that, I'll leave that link down in the description below. But I'm also curious to know what you think. Like, do you think the Apple Vision Pro is going to sell better than people think? Like, and just what did you think about this whole viral week of all of these Apple Vision Pro videos everywhere? Like, I just want to know your overall thoughts on that. Anyways, moving on to some iOS 18 rumors. This one, I give this like less than a 1% chance of actually happening, but I wanted to share it anyways because there's a new report out there that says iOS 18 might have a Vision OS inspired design. Now, I have to admit that this looks really cool. Like, I think this looks awesome, but I give this like less than a 1% chance of happening. I really do not see this happening at all. Like the settings, we could see some changes there because we did see some changes, with the action button menu and settings. That looked really cool, but I don't see a complete overhaul coming in iOS 18 at all, especially not something Vision OS based, because isn't Vision OS based on iPad OS? So how would iOS be based on, I don't know. I just don't see it happening. And plus software leaks are like not really a thing. They don't really happen unless it's like, a couple of days before the Worldwide Developers Conference. So not like hardware leaks where you have suppliers and manufacturing chains and things like that to actually get leaks from. Now, moving on to some rumors that actually have some merit to them and actually have some credibility behind them. Let's talk about some iPhone 16 rumors because this comes from leaker Majin Buu on Twitter or X, and he shared some interesting iPhone 16 details this past week, including schematics and also some additional details. So this was the first thing that he shared about the schematics for the base iPhone 16, and you can see it shows that Apple is going to go back to the vertical stacking cameras for the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus. He also shared some battery details. So he said the new iPhone 16 is going to have a 3561 milliamp hour battery. The 16 Plus is going to have a 4006 milliamp battery, and also the 16 Pro Max is going to have a 4676 milliamp hour battery. So nothing on the 16 Pro, but you could see those three there. And then as far as the 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max, he had this to say: the size of the iPhone 16 Pro models, while many other sources are saying the size has increased, I am seeing that the 16 Pro Max will have no change. Because if you remember, we saw last year a lot of rumors, like multiple rumors from pretty credible sources actually, said that the iPhone 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max are going to get larger displays. I think it was like, for the Pro Max, I think it was like a 6.9 inch display is what a lot of people were hearing, and reporting on. But according to Majin Buu here, he's saying there might not be any change at all in the display size. And if there is, it's going to be very minor. He also said the iPhone 16 Pro could fit a periscope camera without increasing the size. The plan for the Pro models includes a new button layout. The capacitive touch buttons will be flat or maybe a slight bit sunken into the chassis. The regular version will look similar to the schematics. It will be a combination of the iPhone 10 and iPhone 11 design, but with a couple of different variations. And they said spatial video will probably be added as well. So it looks like we might finally get those capacitive buttons on the side of the 16 Pro and Pro Max. So of course the Pro model iPhones are always the ones I look forward to the most, but I'm actually pretty curious to see how Apple's going to handle the design of the iPhone 16, the regular 16, because he said it's going to be like a combination of the iPhone 10 and iPhone 11 with those vertically stacking cameras. So I wonder what the details are on that. So it's going to be pretty interesting to follow these iPhone 16 rumors for the rest of the year. And then finally, just as tradition, let's talk about another crazy AirTag story. And this time it's from a family from Fort Myers Beach who had their boat stolen right from their dock in the middle of the night at 3:30 a.m. And this guy has apparently done this before because he was quick and able to maneuver the boat with ease. And the guy, the owner of the boat, saw how quick and how well he handled that boat from the security camera. But, and you probably know where this is going, the owner of the boat had an AirTag in the boat. So he said that a week went by, and then a week after the theft, the man got a ping on his iPhone from the Find My app, and the AirTag that he had placed in the boat was live, and the stolen boat was close by. So of course he did what you should do, and he called police and identified the boat and was able to get it back in his possession. Now it did have a little bit of damage, but without the AirTag, he'd be without a boat completely. Now somehow no arrests have been made in this case, but hopefully that man does get arrested and charged. So I'm not really sure how they retrieved the boat without arresting the man, but yeah, apparently there were no arrests being made. So yeah, this is a new one. I've not heard of a boat getting stolen and found with an AirTag. So that's a new one here on the channel. And just another example of, if you have a boat somehow out there, if you know somebody with a boat, make sure you have an AirTag, or make sure the owners have an AirTag in that boat, just in case it does happen to get stolen one day. You can track it down with the Find My app. But anyways, guys, there you have it. That is the latest in the world of Apple. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. Also, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode of Apple Weekly. Also, check out the Apple Den newsletter and the Apple Den Discord server. We do have that giveaway going on right now in the Apple Den Discord server, and I will leave that link down in the description below. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.